Alright, so just getting back to some of the things we've been looking at, I just want to touch on the Mexican War for a couple of minutes, and I think the best way to do that is actually ask Ulysses S. Grant, who was, or will be, speaking from a historical standpoint, famous Northern general during the American Civil War, and of course, President of the United States in the Reconstruction era. And I have Ulysses S. Grant's memoirs, some of the things that he wrote about his experience as a soldier now, as a young soldier in the Mexican War. As many future Civil War generals and soldiers, officers like Grant, for example, like we just said, and Lee, very famous Lee from the southern side of the Civil War, had some interesting things to say about the Mexican War's beginning. I'm going to just read a couple of things, and this is first-hand account. He's experienced this, he's spoken to the officers, the generals, he's friendly with them. Of course, he moves up the ranks pretty quickly. And then his history is pretty interesting in and of itself, but worth mentioning here, and I'll leave you guys to the rest of this prezi. So he says, negotiations were commenced at once and were kept up vigorously. This is between the United States government and the Mexican government. Between Mr. Trist, who is the United States government's diplomat at this point, he's going to do the negotiations, appointed, and the commissioners, appointed on the part of Mexico until the 2nd of September. At that time, Mr. Trist handed in his ultimatum. Ultimatums, first of all, don't sound like a lot of negotiation there if you're just saying it's going to be this way or that way, and that's the end of it. Texas was to be given up absolutely by Mexico, and New Mexico and California ceded and then given up to the United States for a stipulated sum to be afterwards determined. I do not suppose, this is Grant speaking again, right? I do not suppose Mr. Trist had any discretion whatever in regards to boundaries. The war was one of conquest. In the interest of an institution, and the probabilities are that private instructions were for the acquisition of territory out of which new states might be carved. Alright, so what is the purpose of this war, the Mexican War? What is the purpose of Mr. Polk's War? Because again, this is referred to as Mr. Polk's War, and this is the guy who ran, as we've read, hopefully at this point you've read, and understood, if not, still point, go back to it again, is that he ran for office in 1844 on reoccupation of Oregon and a reannexation of Texas, right, to get this. And not only to get those, but to go further and expand to the west. And as we spoke about in the last screencast, to fulfill what then the press would term as manifest destiny. All right?